This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you so much!
On 97.7 FM, The City.
Greetings, blessings, and good fortune, everybody. It's another Thursday here at the McAllen Incubator on 97.7 KCYP, The City, out of McAllen, Texas. We're also going out on Facebook, TuneIn Radio, Radio Garden, and YouTube. Glad you can make it with us tonight. And if you're watching this or listening to it, at a future date, thank you. We appreciate that very much. So, we were on a hiatus. So I had a vacation. I had to change my days off, but we're back. We are back. And thank you to anyone and everyone that is tuned in right here and now, because this is where we're living, right here and now. So I'm going to log into here, the Christopher Ott page, and then we'll go to the, here we go, the Bitcoin Otter page. And that'll be that. And now, so I just got to turn down the volume here so we don't go twice. Now, something I want to tell you guys. One, that I'm very glad to be back. I enjoy doing this more than you know. Two, we are enjoying our Bitcoin highs. Yes, we are. Very much so. Very much so. Now, we got a lot of stuff to cover today, but the biggest thing that I would like to talk about, one, Bitcoin. Two, how things are a-changing. In 3 short weeks from the last show, how things, they are a-changing. Now, I also want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, okay? So I've got access here, and Joe's got access to all the other feeds in the Restream, right? And I have access to the Christopher Ott show here. Now, what I would love to tell you guys, what I would love for everyone to ingest is the fact that yet again yesterday, Bitcoin had an all-time high, 124,000 Federal Reserve notes for one Bitcoin, okay? This is going very well. Now, silver, on the other hand, silver currently is going at 38.24 an ounce, still much greater than it would be. And just do this for yourself. If you think that silver moves too slow or gold moves too slow, do yourself this favor. Go to some, precious metals exchange. My, favorite is, of course, the Texas Precious Metals Exchange, because hey, we love Texas, right? But just go into a chart and go to last year's, per ounce price and compare it to today. I think you will dispel any doubts about how fast and how strong gold and silver are performing. Now, gold is at 3,346 today. It was earlier. The average mortgage rate, it doesn't look good. As Donald Trump says increasingly, too late. Powell he strikes again. The 30-year rate, 6.67%. The 15-year rate, 5.87. So I hope you're not pressed against the wall, so to speak, and you absolutely have to purchase a property or a home because it's not looking pretty. And again, as we all know, we are a faith in God organization here at the Bitcoin Otter Private Membership Association. And we have the verse of the day because it does matter. The verse of today is from Romans, and it says, "Those who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God." Ladies and gentlemen, in your daily walk, if you do things because you know God wants them that way or wants you to behave that way or speak in a certain way, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. How do we know it's right? Because it's in the Bible. And if you put your life against the Bible and you use it as a straight edge, so to speak, you will walk the straight and narrow and you will be on the road to victory. My opinion, I will definitely take other opinions in consideration. Cointelegraph, these are going to be news and data from the crypto perspective. Cointelegraph. Bitcoin dropped below a key support level Thursday after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the government had no plans to make additional purchases. Now, we've heard this before, right? So they're going to use the already confiscated, what the government called illegally transferred or gained Bitcoin. Now, I, of course, don't agree with the government in many aspects, so I don't know what happened. And it's certainly, especially if it wasn't during the current administration, it was probably lied about. The decline followed Besant's comments in an interview with Fox Business, where he confirmed the government would not buy more Bitcoin. We've also started, this is Besant, we've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we will be going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up, Besant said. Now, that was from Cointelegraph. Let me read you from CoinDesk. Scott Besant suggests government Bitcoin purchases remain a possibility. Does that sound contradictory? It sure does. And it sure is. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we must parse out these things that come at us. We have to understand that with this current administration are many examples of either contradictory narratives or narratives that go in a direction that we don't quite see yet or understand fully. I know that sounds kind of murky, and I know that sounds kind of, I don't know, made up even. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gents, we are at war. Literally at war. Now, you and I are not engaged in any tactical ballistic manner. We are digital warriors. We are in a war of information, an info war, as Alex Jones puts it. Okay? We are in the battle space of information. If you don't watch TV, then you know that TV lies to you every day if you were foolish enough to watch it. If you don't watch or listen to regular news cable programs, same thing. If you don't read a newspaper, you probably don't read it because you know it's full of lies. You are basically abstaining from drinking from the sewage water, and I commend you on that. Now, we all know that the internet has a ton of trash on it. X has trash on it. Facebook, trash, fake. But give yourself some credit, and I know you do. If you don't watch TV, you give yourself enough credit to parse out and figure out where the dots connect, where the intersecting data streams and narratives, perhaps even contradicting narratives, intersect, and why it is that happens. How is it that one day this is said, another day this is said from the same person, but different messaging? I am confident that as a mature and intelligent person, you will be able to figure out in short order that if they're saying something on the news, it's probably close to the opposite of the truth. If they're saying something like if a Donald Trump representative or Donald Trump himself is saying something, you got to look deeper under the surface to see where the gist, where the direction and the thrust of that information or that statement or narrative lies. Because in all wars, deceit is a key tactic. It's a strategy. Remember in World War II, where the Allies had these blow-up tanks that they were just inflatable. And they were popped out in some area where they wanted the enemy to fly over and think, oh, the Americans or the Allies have all their tanks here. It was deceit. It was a lie. They were inflatable. Okay? So they weren't real tanks. Get it? Got it? Good. Same thing applies. Narrative deployments are often based in deceiving the enemy or bringing to light things that the good guys or the bad guys, depending on the narrative, deployment where it came from, want you to focus on. If it instills fear in your heart, if it makes you uneasy, if it really gives you a lack of faith in mankind or God or both, chances are it's a narrative deployment of your enemy, our enemy, right? The usual suspects, the international criminal cabal. Say whatever you will, Illuminati, Khazarian Mafia, whatever. What you got, Joe?
Daniel Bauer says, right before God uses you, the enemy won't attack your calling. He'll attack your confidence.
Amen. Amen, brother. That is so true. So when we're not confident, we're not projecting a strong outlook, or we're not planning on a secure and safe foundation, solid foundation. Because our confidence is eroded, we might not even deploy. We might not even go forward in what it is that God has seeded in our hearts or our minds to do, to say, to assist in. So exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more, brother. Our plan can remain the same, but if our confidence is not there, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be what we think or what we mean to do or say. Excellent. Completely agree on that, brother. So as this whole contradictory thing is going on, this is Cointelegraph, then CoinDesk talking about the Secretary of the Treasury saying, you know what, we're going to buy more Bitcoin, and then saying, no, we're not going to, or he says no, and then yes. Ladies and gentlemen, it still means Bitcoin's a great buy. It still means that if you are buying Bitcoin, you are one of just 8% of Americans that know what's going on regarding Bitcoin. Okay? There's only 8% of us, ladies and gents. You know, a lot of people think, oh, wow, 124,000. Gee, I'm getting in late. I don't know. I don't think I want to get in on this. Ladies and gents, civilians, American civilians, 8%. You're in the top 10 if you buy today. Think about that. If you don't think you're on the ground floor, you are. You literally are on the ground floor. Less than 10% people own real Bitcoin. Yeah, they might be exposed to it in an ETF or whatever, but that's not the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. They don't have that in their custody. It can be taken from them at any time. Okay? Remember that. That's something I really want everybody to understand. So again, from the CoinDesk, basically the contradictory statement. Earlier in the day, Besant said that strategic Bitcoin reserve would only consist of the 15 to 20 billion coins already held, but no new purchases were being contemplated. But that changed, right? Bitcoin remained sharply lower for the day at 118 after touching new record highs of 124,000 in overnight action. Now, my assessment on this contradictory turn of events and all that, is just that, hey, get it while you can. Get it while we can. Because I do believe that there's going to be a point when regular citizens of the world are going to find it very difficult to find Bitcoin. Now, I think that the fact that Satoshi Nakamoto created the basically the division of one Bitcoin can be divided into 100 millionth of a Bitcoin called a Satoshi. We might be able to deal in Satoshis. But if you can get yourself a chunk of even a piece of, believe me, I do not have even close to a Bitcoin, a real whole Bitcoin, because I'm foolish as well as anyone who's still not in it. Because I started late. But it's not late, because I would buy it today if I had disposable income, right? I would buy it today at 118 or whatever it is. I'll buy it tomorrow at 150 if I can. Why? Because I can still do it. As long as I can still do it, I'm going to do it. That's me. I'm not a financial advisor. You won't see me wearing a tie on this show. Thank you. So let me introduce you to, and I know I've done this before, and I'm going to say it again. I love to watch podcasts, listen to them, whatever. And there is my favorite, my ongoing favorite, perhaps a recent one, is called The Narrative. It's on Rumble. It's from Badlands News Conglomerate, right? Badlands Media. And the guy's name, he goes under Burning Bright on Patreon, et cetera, but he has different shows. But the podcast I'm most interested in is called The Narrative. So he has guests on a different one each week, and they speak about what this narrative means, the narrative of the day, the deployment du jour, whatever you want to call it, okay? But they are talking about things like, well, simple things, like what is being said. And they dig deeper than what the words consist of. They go all the way into what they believe based on all their research, all their experience, their writings, all that good stuff. What they believe the thrust or the gist or the direction of this narrative is in, perhaps sometimes opposition to the words that are actually said. So now I'm going to touch, because we're still in the cryptocurrency portion of our show here. I'm going to touch on what they discussed about stable coins. Now, we know that stable coins are a part of what's called the Genius Act. So the Genius Act was ratified, I guess you could call it, signed into actuality recently. And the Genius Act covers what are called stablecoins. What are stablecoins? Stablecoins are blockchain-based assets that mirror or are tethered to the US dollar, one-for-one basis. Now, what did this new legislation say about stablecoins? It basically made them very legitimate banking assets. How do I mean that? Not only do they mirror the US dollar, not only do they connect to it in a way that is almost equal to one, day by day, minute by minute, one to one. There's various different ones. You got UDC, USD, you have Tether coin. Even Ripple now has, I believe, RL something stablecoin, RLS maybe. So there's various different stablecoins so that when you're going out of a crypto, you don't have to go back into fiat worthless money like the Federal Reserve note. You can go from, let's say, I don't recommend selling Bitcoin, but let's just say you were foolish enough to sell your Bitcoin. So you sell your Bitcoin, or forced to. You sell your Bitcoin and you go into a stablecoin like USD or Tether, and you hold that in your wallet. It's still in your possession. It's not it's not a risky thing like, holding it in a bank, right? It is something that is yours, in your possession, and yours alone. Not only that, it will have assets to back it, unlike the Federal Reserve note, which has nothing. So these assets normally right now, they are a, kind of like a basket of things, but normally they're T-bills. So what these companies are doing, privately owned companies that are allowed now to issue a stablecoin, they are buying up US T-bills, right? So it's basically US debt. So they're buying these up, and the worth of them is always pegged to the dollar and pegged to that blockchain asset, be it USD, be it Tether, any of the stable coins that are in existence. USDC is another one. Now, I hope I'm articulating this well. So what it's doing is actually, in addition to stabilizing your, hopefully your profits into the US dollar and keeping it right there, so that if you wanted to get out of an asset before it dropped, maybe you perceive that it's going to drop, a crypto is going to drop. You get out of it, you lock in your profits, and you put it into a stable coin. It's going to stay equal to the US, the Federal Reserve note, the federal dollar, the US dollar, right? Now, what these guys were talking about on the narrative, again, this is on Rumble, the narrative Badlands Media. What these guys were talking about was, what if, and it's looking more and more this way, what if stable coins were actually, in effect, stabilizing not only cryptocurrency gains, cryptocurrency blockchain technology assets? What if it was stabilizing? What if they were stabilizing the US dollar? Think about that. I've spoken about this a few times on the show. We are in the process, ladies and gentlemen, of ditching the old financial system. It is not for you. It's not for me. It's for really old world money. Okay. We're talking hundreds of years. The central bank system here in the United States is hundreds of years old. And it's always a parasite against the American people. We are in its third iteration, and this one being the longest, since 1913. Okay. This private organization called the Federal Reserve is sucking the life out of you and me, out of our country, out of our citizenry. Okay. Now, when we talk about these stable coins, how would they possibly stabilize the US dollar? Here's how. They're buying up debt. Debt against the US dollar is always going to hurt it. It's going to devalue it, right? These things are almost like debt laundering, the opposite of money laundering. How do I mean that? It's almost like, how you could put in, let's say you have an aquarium, a fish aquarium, and you put in a bottom feeder, and it sucks up all the nastiness that the other fish are dumping in there, or that just the bacteria or whatever the tank. Stable coins are the integration point of the new financial world and the old financial world. So it's cleaning the US dollar, which is a fiat worthless, it's going to be worthless soon, okay, at some point, instrument of debt. And it's integrating where at some point our money is going to come from the source that the Constitution says it must come from, the US Treasury, the people's treasury. The Federal Reserve is not ours. It belongs to very few people, none of whom you know, and none of whom like you. In fact, they hate you. So when the Trump administration and the patriots that recruited Donald Trump set up the tariffs of this current administration, that gain, that income of money from international external sources. Remember, Donald Trump has said he wants to start the external revenue service and phase out the internal revenue service. Internal revenue service is a parasitic entity on the United States citizen. The external revenue service is from other countries that are finally paying their way, carrying their weight that we have been carrying for generations. That income goes into the Treasury, not the Federal Reserve. Now, all of that income, and I don't know how much it is, all of that income is now in the U.S. Treasury, ready and waiting to be backed, to back the new system. And when it comes online, we will hopefully have, as the old fiat system dies, because we keep printing, right? I mean, they keep creating worthless, cash out of thin air. And as they do that, we're going down. This system's going down. So the new system's going to come up at a rate hopefully equal to or greater than the fall of the old system. And then we're going to be working on real money, because we will have gold, we will have silver, we will have Bitcoin, perhaps even real estate. Whatever unfortunately, the Constitution was broken and the federal government owns land. That is unconstitutional. Exactly. So perhaps there will be a basket of assets that are worth something that will be backing the new iteration of the U.S. Treasury note, which will be the U.S. dollar. Because the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen, its days are numbered. Thank God. Thank God above. The Federal Reserve's days are numbered. Now, there's a big scandal going on in the Federal Reserve right now. It's, I think, $3.5 billion of your money they want to spend on a new building. Those criminals, those crooks, they've been sucking us dry for how many years? Their Gestapo wing called the IRS will take your furniture if you don't pay your confiscated money they call taxes. Stolen money. Right? They'll take your furniture. They'll take your house. So what we have is an institution that is in direct conflict and is the enemy of the United States citizen. It's going away, ladies and gentlemen. It's going away. Thank God. Now, how do you protect yourself from having your assets based in Federal Reserve notes? You work in, you deal in, you invest in solid assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, right? I've been saying this like a broken record for about almost 3 years now on this very show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. So to recap, this stablecoin concept is going to allow you and me to bridge the transformative system transfer. We will be able to get into stable coins because I guarantee you banks, if they want to stay in business, will be compliant with stable coins. They will be able to basically have them, hold them, bank in them, do business in them, or they're going to go out the way of the dinosaur. They have their choice. We all have our choice. And I hope that new banks pop up that are in no way or form connected to the evil Federal Reserve. We can only hope. This is from Zero Hedge. ED, now I don't know what that is, and it sounds dangerous to any of you male listeners out there, but ED prepares gold revaluation as debt crisis escalates. Okay. The Fed just published a playbook for gold revaluation. Now, guys, this was, and I got it, full transparency. This was an ad, okay, on Zero Hedge. But that was the headline. The Fed just published a playbook for gold revaluation, a move that could reshape global finance, crush the dollar, and reward anyone holding real assets. They don't need to sell gold. They just change the price. Ooh, they can do that. Yeah, they can. It's already happened in history, and every time it marked the end of one monetary era and the violent birth of another. That's what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. We want to look forward. We can look back to see where we were. But ladies and gentlemen, we want to look forward. We want to be, as the average citizen, we want to be as well armed and informed, financially speaking, as the Federal Reserve, the banksters, the usual suspects. I got a million other names if you want to hear. And we can be if we just turn off the TV and burn the newspaper. We will succeed. And I know you're doing that if you're watching this or listening. So it goes on to say, with U.S. debt exploding, foreign demand vanishing, and the world fleeing fiat, this might be the most important financial pivot in a generation. So if you've ever wanted to hold a real asset, gold, silver, real estate, Bitcoin, then now might just be the time. I'm not a financial advisor. Remember that. I am not a lawyer. Nothing I say here is in any way legal or financial advice. Okay, you do you research what you want to. I'm here to help you out. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, I've done many of that. I've done much of that. So contact me on Bitcoin Otter at secure.com. Not a problem. Or here on Facebook. Kellogg's agrees to remove artificial dyes from all cereals. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving forward, as we knew we would once we elected Donald Trump into office yet again. So he's got this great health guy called RFK Jr., and he's hitting the ground running, and he's getting things done. So this is from our great he's our AG here in Texas, Ken Paxton. I'm proud to officially say Kellogg's will stop putting these unhealthy ingredients in its cereals, said Paxton, a Republican, in a statement. Well, I don't know why they had to throw in Republican, but they did. Kellogg's produces a variety of cereals, including Fruit Loops and Frosted Flakes. They currently contain dyes such as Red 40 and Yellow 5. They're harmful, ladies and gentlemen. You know it's crap. You know it is. Even if the dyes are out of it, it's still not going to be in any way nutritious to you or your kids. But by the same token, at least it's improving. And as I will not endorse anyone, I can tell you that I am definitely not voting for John Cornyn. Just so you know, if you care. DOE taps 10 advanced. This is where we're going, ladies and gentlemen. I love this. But before I do go forward, I want to let you know that the intense training that studio owner Joe Martinez put me through in the beginning of this is paying off. So I'm going to reestablish our station identification. 97's KCYP, the city, 97.7 here in McAllen, Texas. We're broadcasting from the McAllen Creative Incubator, and we're going out on various other platforms like Facebook, YouTube, a couple of apps called Radio Garden and TuneIn Radio. You can find us wherever you'd like to, but we're just glad you're listening. Thank you very much. Now, this is, again, a transformation. We are in a transformative time, a transformative era. Thank God. We're transforming from the evil, empirical, deep state system to a freer, people-based system. So this whole mess, crap, if you will, of solar strapped to your house, of the whole landscape being littered by these either solar panels or windmills, highly unethical, it's definitely not very inefficient, is it? It definitely is inefficient. All of this stuff, okay, is going to be put in its proper perspective. It has its uses. Powering your home is not one of them. You could do it in a grid down situation as an emergency backup, but ladies and gentlemen, it's not. And these solar companies have really changed their tune. They're changing their contracts. They're doing all kinds of mess. And of course, lawyers are capitalizing on it. But what I would like to say is as we are transforming our entirety of the American system, we're transforming not only our financial system, but our energy system. Check this out. Again, from Zero Hedge. DOE, Department of Energy, taps 10 advanced reactor companies for expedited nuclear pilot. 10 companies, ladies and gentlemen. 10 of them. So it's not like the government is picking favorites. Maybe these are 10 favorites out of 20. I don't know. But the only person that can legitimately yell fascist at this government would be a legitimate fascist who doesn't like the way fascism is going, because you know how they love to lie. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It involves a Subway sandwich of all things. So the U.S. Department of Energy on Tuesday selected 11. Wow. This says 10 in the headlines, but 11 advanced reactor projects to participate. Maybe one of them is one of the other of the 10 companies. To participate in a nuclear pilot program that aims to expedite deployment without Nuclear Regulatory Commission licensing. According to a June request for applications, Department of Energy wants to achieve critically of at least 3 test reactors, okay, using an expedited authorization process by July 4, 2026. Why is that significant? On July 4, 2026, Donald Trump has already told us that we will be having that 250th anniversary, okay, of the existence of the United States. And it's going to be, I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, it's going to be like a year-long celebration or a month-long. It's going to be crazy. He's going to be ushering in this golden age, all this good stuff. But I believe, this is just me personally, and who am I, right? I believe that these projects, 11 of them, they're saying, these projects are probably going to coincide with the rebuilding of cities that Donald Trump has already told us he's going to do. We are going to do. So instead of rebuilding Baltimore on top of Baltimore, instead of rebuilding Cleveland on top of Cleveland, Detroit on top of Detroit, Buffalo on top of Buffalo, they're going to rebuild nearby. And it's going to be different. It's going to be in a way that improves the life of the people in these cities if they choose to move. Now, if it's in a blue state and the Democrat Party has not imploded by that time, your ass out. You're not going to have any benefit because you're living under communism. So let's hope that based on many things like the Russia hoax, perhaps some exposure of the Epstein stuff, a whole basket of nasty and nefarious wrongdoings that both the Democrat and Republican Party were involved with. Hopefully that gets exposure enough to get people to realize that, hey, you know what? I don't want to live in a place like, let me use for an example, New York, where, you know, it gets below 0 in the winter, but they won't let me have a gas stove. Ladies and gentlemen, this is America. This is the United States of America. But a rogue regime like the New York regime says that your grandma and you can't have, if you're unfortunate enough to live in New York, you can't have a gas stove. Ladies and gentlemen, that is sick. Natural gas is clean, natural gas is efficient, and natural gas is cheaper. And that's exactly why they don't want you to have it. They hate you. They hate your family. Just remember the lockdowns, ladies and gentlemen. That's all you need to know. Here's another thing. That I'm going to branch off on this. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know and have heard of the military-industrial complex. And we know that when the military-industrial complex wants more money and profit, what do? They start a war. They start a war. You know, they sell bullets, they sell guns, they sell everything. And as a bonus to them, they're getting rid of people like you and me or our children. They love death. It's a death cult. So the military industrial complex always has war in its back pocket, and it gets thrown out whenever they want more profit, whenever they get more greedy than they already are. Now, we have another ugliness that has sprouted up. It's called the medical industrial complex. And what do? They throw out a pandemic. Oh, they want you scared. They want you locked down, and they want you to only take their products to not get better. What do I mean by that? They're going to tell you you're going to get better. They're going to tell you it's effective, but they're lying to you because there's no profit in you being well. They want you sick all the way up until the time you're dead. And then when you're dead, they're going to sell your organs. And they're going to tell you that this is for your health and that they are healthcare professionals. All part of the new, I believe it's new to perhaps our system within the last 100 years, little more, started the early 1900s, okay? It's not called, I don't call it healthcare, I call it death management. Call it what you want, but it certainly doesn't live up to the healthcare name. So the medical industrial complex will throw out a pandemic now and scare you into getting something injected into you or imbibed in a drink or taken in pill form, whatever it is they want to do, but they want you unwell. They profit from your sickness. Yes. And when there is real alternative cures, there are real alternative cures. Okay. They're going to hide that from you like they did from the COVID pandemic, right? We had all kinds of different ways to cure that craziness, all different kinds, but they wouldn't let you or me publicize it and tell each other on social media because of the regime that was in control during that time, because of who was in control. But now, ladies and gentlemen, patriots are in control. So perhaps think on that. Chew on that for a little bit. We got any more comments over there, Joe? Anything else? I'm not getting anything here on the feed, but Facebook does not like us. So we know that it's very possible we are being shadow banned and all the other things that Facebook likes to do to content creators all around the world. So anybody who's trying to get in and comment and you are unable to, please know that we are doing our part to try and monitor the comments, but we're being stymied, if you will, in our efforts to monitor these comments. I'm looking up at the eye and it says I have one viewer right now, and that's probably me on this feed. So I know that we're being blocked in some form. All the more impetus, motivation to go to Rumble. So the DOE wants to achieve critically at least 3 test reactors using an expedited process by July 4, 2026. OKLO, and its Atomic Alchemy subsidiary were selected to develop 3 of the projects. DOE is opening the door to the market so new ideas, new approaches, and new designs can be built more quickly and efficiently, said the CEO of OKLO, Jacob DeWitt, in a statement. Power bill crisis spreads from Maryland to New Jersey, may doom Democrats as green implodes. We were just talking about this, ladies and gentlemen. Green is imploding, okay? If someone like AOC is preaching green new scams, you know to stay away from it. And a power bill crisis is gripping parts of the U.S. Why? Because we just talked about this. It is the purpose. They want you to pay more money so you use less and you're inconvenienced more. They love it when you're in pain. They want you uncomfortable. That is what they want. They want you dependent upon all else. Dependent upon them as they destroy you because they hate you. They, who is they? Oh, wow. We're going into it now. It's the bankers. It's the politicians. It's all of these people that decide they want to rule over you and your freedom. That's who it is. So what began in Baltimore, Maryland has now spread in New Jersey, where residents are furious over skyrocketing electricity costs. Why do you think that I read what I just read? Why do you think the Trump administration is branching out into nuclear? They're also breaking open more access to coal, breaking open more access to oil. Why do you think they renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America? Oh, because, well, we're America? Yeah, maybe. But the real reason was that the despotic regime of Joe, I forgot my name, Biden, had an executive order that said there would be no offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. The Trump administration said, you know what? That's fine. We're going to change the name. Now we're going to drill in the Gulf of America. Simple as that. And ingenious, I might add. So, Russiagate redo can't keep a good hoax down. When intelligence czar Tulsi Gabbard, I like this lady, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. She's a vet. She's smart. She's all the things that communists hate. She's a patriot. When she released her report last month, accusing major players in the Obama administration of fabricating the Russia collusion hoax, used to tarnish Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential campaign and beyond, some of us were not surprised. Nor were we surprised that the news media has either ignored the story or tried to discredit it. We're very familiar with that playbook. Of course we are. We know that if you're watching TV, you're being made dumber. Having seen major media outlets use it to perfection, when 51 intelligence officials signed a letter, it was not just a letter, it was an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, falsely claiming that Hunter Biden's incriminating laptop had all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. That letter, signed by former CIA Director John Brennan and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, two traitorous individuals, if ever there were such things, probably cost Donald Trump the 2020 election. Now, I'm going to add, so did mail-in ballots and creative cheating. 81 million votes. My tookus. Diaper Joe. My tookus. 81 million votes for that. Anyway, the Gateway Pundit. Trump announces massive Social Security cleanup. 275,000 illegal aliens removed from your Social Security system. That's a start. That's a good start. 275,000 illegal aliens removed. Do you know what they were siphoning from the American worker? Plus 12.4 million dead people. Ladies and gentlemen, we were being, and still are, I mean, this is just the beginning of the cleanup. 12.4 million dead people. Checks going out to who knows where. Not only that, but these dead people were given ballots in 2020. They voted in 2020. And let me ask you, who do you think they voted for? 81 million votes for a over 12.4 million dead people over 120 years wiped from the database. Thank you, Doge. On the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, President Donald J. Trump delivered a stirring proclamation in the Oval Office promising to make Social Security great again. Trump celebrated the passage of his signature legislation, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which includes a temporary senior tax deduction, effectively eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits for many recipients aged 65 and above from 2025 to 2028. What do you think is going to happen in 2028? Do you think anyone voting or anyone, I guess you could say, running on a platform that includes bringing those Social Security tax benefits or cuts back or scaling them back, telling older people that, oh, we're going to tax you again? How do you think that platform is going to do? That's why he made it limited. And you know what? It even goes beyond that, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be to the point where all going to be the point where we're going to say, wait a minute, whoa. Why go back to taxes at all? Why tax income? It's unconstitutional, but so is the Federal Reserve. Oh, but the 16th Amendment, Otter, you don't know that they ratified. Yeah, they did on a Friday night, Christmas Eve. Yeah. As part of the administration's push to root out fraud, waste, and abuse, Trump touted removing 275. We already went through that. In his remarks and through a White House post, he claimed many of these platform or phantom entries were gaining benefits. Of course they were gaining benefits. Why would they be there if they weren't gaining benefits for someone? Here's the what I referred to earlier, ladies and gentlemen. You may have seen this. You may have seen this video. A very, very drunk and enraged man brandishing a Subway sandwich was charged with felony for throwing sandwich at federal agent. This guy was identified, this sandwich thrower, this wielder of a sandwich. I don't know. Maybe it was an Italian BMT, my favorite. I don't know. Could have been a turkey club. Joe, what do you think it was? What kind of sandwich do you think this guy was wielding? It was maybe the salami was really sharp and he thought it would cut the officer or agent that he threw it at through his ballistic vest. I don't know, but he's fired. Yeah, he was fired. Pam Bondi announced it, that the man charged for throwing a Subway sandwich at a federal agent in D.C. worked for the DOJ as a lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, the swamp is deep. The swamp is insidious. We must root it out. D.C. needs an enema. So he worked at the DOJ as a lawyer and has been promptly fired. A man in a salmon-colored T-shirt was caught on video throwing a sandwich at a federal officer in D.C. earlier this week after President Trump deployed the National Guard to patrol the streets. The sandwich thrower was identified as 37-year-old Sean Charles Dunn, a DOJ trial attorney. If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you. I just learned that this defendant worked at the Department of Justice, but no longer. Not only is he fired, he has been charged with a felony. This is what Attorney General Pam Bondi said. This is what an attorney general looks like. Okay? Unlike Bill Barr, that corrupt, bushy conspirator. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to wield and brandish your Subway sandwich, be advised, if you throw it at a federal agent, you're probably going to get in trouble. This guy is not smart. Not at all. He's going to regret this. I don't know, maybe he was day drinking and it wove into the evening and he just wanted to bring home a sandwich. But his communism caught up to him. His rage at the cleaning up of Washington, D.C. became apparent. And I remember I've seen this video a few times. And he's screaming at I think they were either ICE or federal agents of some kind, screaming, calling them fascists. Because a portion of the deep state territory here in the United States, it's I want to say it's like 10 square miles, Washington, D.C. It's a district of Columbia. It is not a state. It is not part of these great United States. It has well been taken over. It has, if you go there, if you are ever at the mercy of the system of so-called justice in D.C., you are potentially doomed if you are a patriot. If you adhere to the Constitution of the United States, you will not be shown mercy. Just ask the victims of the January 6th operation, infiltration, whatever you want to call it, that the deep state put on display for all of us. So, we're just about out of time. I got a couple more things. It's about Colorado. Unfortunately, it seems like it's lost. They have a Secretary of State named Jenna Griswold. Thankfully, no relation to Clark W. Griswold of the Vacation series. Thankfully, I can tell you that because Clark was, a much better person than this Jenna hack. So apparently, she's doing something there that is again undermining any type of law and order citizenry service. And it's just horrible, horrible, horrible is the government of Colorado. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end. What you got, Joe?
Well, Bill just mentioned
Bill
Fanning. Yeah.
Bill Fanning?
Barry mentioned Bill and
Fanning. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Barry did. So, meaning Fannie Mae, I guess Fannie Mae and Fannie Mac? Is that what the gist is?
Bill and Fannie.
Bill and maybe the Bill of Fannie.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Bill and Fannie, like Fannie
Fanni.
Willis. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that, Barry. Why do I say that? Because between Fannie and Letitia James, they could have a complete university course, 101, 201. You could get a degree in mortgage fraud just by them instructing you on how to do it. How do they know? Because they are deeply involved in fraudulent mortgages. They're not the only ones, but it's coming out that they are. How do you think they put such a deeply detailed yet fraudulent case against Donald J. Trump? Because they knew exactly how it was done. They just took their format of how they do crime and they overlaid it to a legitimate business interaction between Donald Trump and the bank and lied about it. Because you can in communist states. You can in places under, the regime of false and fake and fraudulent justice systems, like New York, like Illinois, like California, like Colorado, like DC. Right. Thank you, Barry, for adding that. That was a great addition to the show, right under the buzzer. So I'm going to sign off. But before I sign off, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Any interaction you've given, I appreciate it. As you can see, and as you may or may not know, we are being, we're really being subdued here in any type of interaction with our friends and neighbors here on Facebook. So, okay, so I did see something come in, Barry, on the screen. It came in, check out Project Veritas. Thank you, sir. Project Veritas is a very good endeavor to expose crime and all that skullduggery that communists are getting away with no longer in this great United States of America. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless America. I love you all. Have a great week. The Otter's out.
This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you so